Gemma Pozzi. I am the ProverbsGuys President, and Gemma is the gatekeeper to keep me halfway sane. I'm in love with Jesus Christ, and since 1981, when God delivered me from the darkness into the light, and we're here to tell you that we love for you guys to listen to our shows on ProverbsGuys on Sundays. I do a designer talk showing the intelligent, designly creatures, plants, universe that is evidence, just evidence. It is evidence of a designer, or if it's evidence, I don't see how it can be of undesigned process, but the cause we see of the material universe is better with the designer. We are helpers at a ministry in Gemma's hometown of the Philippines. Beautiful place, beautiful people, and a lot of poor people that we help out. Thank you everybody for watching ProverbsGuys Ministry. Dan Pozzi and First Lady Gemma Pozzi. Beautiful place, beautiful people. A lot of poor people help out.
One of you guys
Are we live?
We are live.
All right, good. Sorry about that. I was frozen the whole time, so I was like, help! And welcome everybody to ProverbsGuys Ministries. And this is the designer show usually. I'm Dan Pozzi, President. And have a special friend from church, John Karras, and of course, fellow host Richard.
How y'all doing?
And just wanted to talk. We have so much stuff going on now about Christian citizenship. You know, those in the past who actually worshipped Obama, those now that are said to worship the current president. And so we just wanted to have a biblical view, because I think pretty much everybody here, and even in our viewing audience, and feel we don't think that the president or any politics is straight from the Almighty. So anyway, John, is that about kind of what we're going to talk about?
Yeah, sure. I'm just here for a conversation.
Dan, could you turn that light off that's right behind your head up there?
No, that's a skylight. That was part of the glitch. While you guys do that, I will fix that. Well, I'll fix it like that for right now. But yeah. Oh, didn't I look pretty before? John came on yesterday, and he's more of a techie guy, and he's like, Dan, you got to do something about the background. So it was looking good when on our false starts. We tried to start a couple times. Sorry, John, I ruined your intro. You tried.
I'm just here for the ride, man.
You tried to help me out. So even God must be like, no, we still want that dope to be on camera, because I don't know what happened. Anyhow, so John, welcome.
Hi.
This is awesome. We've been talking about this forever. And John, why don't you give us a little background on you? You're going to Haskell.
Dan, I sent you my bio. I worked so hard on that. Could you read it at least?
You did it on email, didn't you?
I did. Is that a challenge?
No, let me look that up. You know I don't do email. I told you to text me when you email me.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. And I'm kind of the same way in reverse. So if you text me something, I won't get it till like tomorrow.
So I'm glad you got onto the show tonight, because I was just going to text you the link to get on, and you were already on, luckily. So as you can see, John's a little on the smarter category than I am. Otherwise, we'd still be backstage just like figuring out what we're doing wrong. Anyhow, well, how about a little bit intro on yourself? I'll do the bio, but how long have we known each other? We've been going Bible studies for a few years now, and at Hessel Church there in Sebastopol. When did we meet?
Well, I can't actually recollect when we met, but for sure we've been in the men's group for quite a while, and we're sort of meeting every evening at every Thursday evening, and we just have a good conversation there, worshiping the Lord and really devouring the Word and trying to understand it. So that's how we met.
And for our audience, how long? What is kind of mini testimony? Well, I'm trying to find your email.
Okay, well, I'm a Christian. The Lord revealed Himself to me, as about 19 or so. So it's been quite a few years. I would say that I'd say it's been a gradual slope. I wasn't one of those um, um, guys with a radical testimony where I was strung out on drugs and then all of a sudden I'm healed of that. Those are amazing to hear. But for me, it just was a long slope. And honestly, I would say that the first, I don't know, 10 years maybe or more of being a Christian, it was hard to recognize that I was a Christian. So, and I just think God's been gracious with me and carried me along. So here I am. So in my bio, when you're reading it, you say I've just been observing people. I'm in a financial business, so I observe a lot of people. I think I've just been observing what's going on around me, and just I want to live a biblical life. I want to live according to the scriptures, and I see. I think for the sake of the conversation topic tonight, I see some missed opportunities with the church. And I've seen abuses in this topic of citizenship and politics, how it's done wrong. And I just have an idea of how we can do better, and how we can really bring glory to the Lord in terms of obedience, in terms of a full pursuit of the Great Commission that we've been given. And I think we're called to speak to the culture. We're called to speak to the city. That's what the word politics means. Polis is the Greek for city. And so politics is the affairs or the goings on of the city. And there you go. You want to read that?
Actually,
people can see it.
Maybe Richard, can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Can you read it, please? Mine, it's a little bit small.
John Karras is a financial professional based in Northern California. After decades of observing people and American culture, he is interested in practical application of biblical principles in public life as a component of the Great Commission. He believes that the church can take a greater role in informing public debate with biblical concepts, not through a partisan flag waving, but through the faithful pursuit of essential civic duties. He is married with 3 grown children and is active in his local church. Is that all you got?
That's all I got. Meant to be brief.
I was just curious. I wasn't sure if there was more below your picture or not.
No, that's what it looked like, just in case, I don't know, the video feed runs out. Dan, you asked for a photo.
No, that's great.
Not as good as the live, picture, but that's okay. That is awesome. Now I'm going to try to get back to where I'm going. Get that down. And people know I'm very techie, just Flintstones speed.
I got your back here, brother.
Flintstone speed. So, and again, Hessel is a real, really blessed. I've been there since 96, 8, somewhere in there. And, just praying for the Holy Spirit to really lead more. I've always seen miracles, but, just seemingly in this dark county, we're in one of the darkest counties probably in the United States. A lot of atheists, but probably even more of the spiritist type of stuff. A lot of the New Age, a lot of stuff like that, pseudo-religious that believe in spirits, but not really practicing that well. So we've had a real big impact in our communities, even ones that in the day there was a political cartoon of our pastor being the head of a cult in our church. And so that kind of a look towards us to now that they actually will call us up. We had the great fires here about 5-6 years ago, and we actually shut down church services and housed the forestry department, housed other things, and we're really totally, old school. This is the church. This is for worship. But when huge part of the community is burning down, we figured, no, it's actually the leaders figured, and I was totally on board. It's like, no, our best worship is to help out the people, some of them who do not like the ground and would wish that Hessel was one of the places that burnt down. And so I've really been blessed. And then there's been last few years, guys like John and others have joined our church, and I'm really seeing answered prayer more than ever. And probably because, John, we have on our Bible study, it's like, okay, well, what's God done? And then one I always bring up, it's and there were 3 or 4 of us had lost keys one week, and that was just something simple. But John, you were one of them, and you finally like prayed. I was one of them that I'd lost my key and prayed about it. Then I just like found it right on my back seat, and one other person had. So 3 people in 1 week lost keys, and then were frustrated to death, and then prayed about it, and we found them just in weird situations. And so again, coincidence, but when that happens hundreds and hundreds of times, please shut off that phone, hundreds and hundreds of times. So and John and I started talking, and because mainly he was doing some classes, but on the, how do we bring our faith? How do we bring the Holy Spirit farther in a wider range? Not just, and I think because we're not a political church in that, our pastor is not going to offend 3/4 of the population of Sonoma County by saying, go Republicans or go Democrats or go whoever. He's going to preach the word. He preaches against abortion. He preaches for godly relationships. So he stands on the principles. But John and I got talking. It's like, man, there's so much, and that's great. I'm so happy with Hessel that, we're not going to compromise, or you're not going to see a little any flags outside our church that go against what Jesus Christ and the Bible teaches. But how can we get out more in our confession? So biblical citizenship, and what is the pros and cons to how we as citizens of the United States who confess that Jesus Christ is our president, is our king, our kingdom is not of this world, but he's placed us in this unique country that gives us, we can argue, but I think not only just the rights, but also I would think through God, the responsibilities. So John.
Well, ask me a question. I'm not here to teach anyone anything, but I'm here to be part of a conversation and see where it goes.
Okay, so basically, with the biblical citizenship of a national citizenship, what brought you to go more into it?
Right. Well, so I've always had these ideas about how to properly the proper context or relationship between the church and the state. That's a big thing. I think a big conversation point, which in itself is a big topic that needs to be unpacked. The so-called separation of church and state. That's a big deal. But certainly for my own sake, for my own. I'm a Christian. I'm a citizen. I'm both. We're dual citizens. Citizenship in heaven, of course, is overall. I'm primarily, first of all, a citizen of heaven. And so anything I say, by the way, let this go by way of preface. Anything I say that, hey, we got to do something, I always mean it in that context. It's always I'm a citizen of heaven first. I'm a Christian first. But nonetheless, I think that we are given a field. We're born in this nation. Everybody's born in some nation. And I think we absolutely, I believe it's biblical that we have a duty. We have certain duties to our nation. And I've always wanted to explore those and understand what they were. I'll just give you a couple of anecdotes. Some of the things that always kind of bothered me a little bit, even as a very young Christian, when I was trying to figure out which way is up. I would go to some churches, and some of them were definitely traditional or whatever, older school, and they would have the Christian flag on one side of the stage, and they'd have the American flag on the other side of the stage. And they didn't really bother me, not really. And I understood why it was there. And I think that the reason that I thought it was there was because, we're one nation under God. That's good. I think a lot of people understand that America is an incredible gift to mankind from God, that we have a nation founded by Christians, originally for Christians, that rely on Christian ethics and participation in order to keep going. And so I think it's just a general acknowledgement of our nation in context of God's sovereignty. So somehow it felt right for those churches to put an American flag on their stage, on the next to the pulpit. And I never really questioned that. It doesn't bother me, honestly, too much. But then I see other things sometimes. I remember once I was in a church, and many churches have a very large Christian cross on the wall, we know why, but anyway, it's there. And then for patriotic holidays, this one church, they had a cross draped, they had a flag draped over the cross. It was for 4th of July or Memorial Day or something. And I know why they did it. They were just, again, same thing. They weren't trying to be inappropriate. I know that their spirit, their heart, they weren't trying to do that. But for me, it was that clash of symbols. The cross, of course, and the flag is also a powerful symbol. So they're trying to mix them together. Oh, couldn't stand it. The idea of like, Jesus, was on the cross and then off, and now what the cross represents now, the empty cross, right? What that represents, and then just to mix a flag on it, it's like kind of made my brain break a little bit. Another example, it was the same church actually. So how people, a lot of times the churches will project the words, for our songs up on the screen, and some churches can have like a video background, or backgrounds, and you can have a video background of nature scenes or whatever, right, to really accentuate the meaning of the song and help us in worship. And that's perfectly fine in my view, except that this one time they had this song up there. It was some beautiful hymn, that was perfectly fine, but the background they chose was a huge close-up of a billowing American flag like this while I'm trying to sing this hymn. It was Memorial Day again, something like that. And I was just like, oh, this is too much. And no, I didn't rage storm out of the church or anything, but that stuck with me. It's like, wow, it seems like I'm glad I'm a Christian. I'm glad I'm a citizen of the United States, but there's got to be some limits here. So anyway, those are a couple of examples where I'd say were negative experiences of a mix of politics and church. So I just think there are better ways to do it. So maybe we can get into some of those.
Perfect. Yes. And so I know we've had discussions here on ProverbsGuys Ministries of the what do we call it? It's the negative end of it, the like Christian political stuff. Help me out, Richard. What do we call that, or John?
Christian nationalism.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's a PSYOP term, by the way. That's a term that's thrown out there. It's a relatively recent term. I'd like to do some more study on it, but my view, that's a PSYOP term that was created just very recently. And if you think about it, Christian nationalism rhymes with National Socialism, and they try to make that link and make it a pejorative. So that is a cold, calculated attack by dark forces to inject a different meaning onto words, and that's actually kind of a good point. I'll bring that up again because I have concerns about the way the word politics is used. I want to define that. I want to unpack that, and I want to lead us to hopefully a more productive use of the word. But Christian nationalism. Sorry to interject your point, but that's a challenge. Go ahead.
No, that's exactly, and actually, that's that was a perfect. Even though it was a statement, that should have been in the question, since I'm questioning you, and you did that. Thank you very much. You know me well. But yeah, so even in our Proverbs Guys show, there's one that's like, well, tell me who they are. Let me, because back in the day, you had those evil Christians, and it was Westboro Baptist Church that would go out and protest at gay funerals, and it's like, oh, that's horrible. What? And it's like, who are they? And it's like, oh, they're like 15 guys and 4 dogs. It wasn't. But again, like you say with that whole right wing, whatever they termed them at the time, which I agreed with, not too Christ-like, but they blew it out of proportion, that like, oh, under every bed there's going to be a Steven Anderson or some wacko preacher that's going to talk hate at you, and God doesn't love you if you're outside of what I believe. So we do, and I think, and that's where I wouldn't have had you on if you were like that, because there is that fine road, that narrow road of glorifying God and watching out for the devil. Devil can go at all 360 degrees attacks at us, all types. So that was very cool. So then too, on that same vein, you're not saying that our present president or any of our past ones were walking on water ever?
No. No. So was that kind of a question? You want me to jump in there and talk about that, the president?
I think I had a question mark at the end of that statement. I know.
Well, no. I mean, what do we know about leaders? I mean, we know that they're raised up by God for their purposes, and God bends their heart and their actions and their will for God's will, and God's weaving together, human history to bring about an ultimate redemptive end for God's glory and our good. And we don't understand why He allows a Pol Pot, right, the Southeast Asian, terrible guy, or anyone else throughout history. And you can just imagine how many horrible dictators have existed on the planet in the past, thousands of years, 6,000 years, that we never heard about because we never recorded their history, like in South America or whatever, right? All the horrible histories that had to have occurred there, just as an example, all the things. So God raises these leaders up, and He guides people, and He guides nations. And so American presidents are well, this actually is a fine point. But God certainly raises up leaders, and He raised up Donald Trump. Our system, you're not given many choices, to be honest. You're kind of, the system's got it down to 2 choices at the end of the day. And so some people think of that as choosing the lesser of 2 evils. You've heard that phrase. And
oh yeah.
And that's something else I want to maybe might be a good point to talk about that. The problem with taking the view that voting between 2 objectionable persons is voting for the lesser of 2 evils. The problem with that, and people recognize this and they recoil and maybe don't want to vote, I think, That's another thing I want to talk about, why people don't vote. But it's wrong. It's wrong to say that I'm choosing the lesser of two evils, because that way I'm always choosing an evil, right? I don't want to choose any evil. So why would I want to choose even for a lesser evil? So I think that's a thought process that some people have. But it was pointed out that a probably more valid approach, and maybe a more useful approach, is to vote to lessen evil. Okay, we're not choosing evil. We're not choosing the smaller devil over the larger devil. We're voting to lessen evil overall. So we take that approach now. We look at the same problem, the same slate of candidates, and you say, well, as a Christian, which of these candidates or issues, or whatever you're voting on, which of these are going to lessen evil? So maybe it's just I don't mean it to be just a semantic trick only, just a hide some problem. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to make sure that we're not unnecessarily hindered in lessening evil. And so that's, I think, a better approach to voting. I'm not voting for an evil. I'm voting to lessen evil, and I'm given two choices. And so here we go. This is the one.
Quite a biblical stance that we are to look towards the light, which has more light. I know, and I've debated with other Christians where there's like we should abandon politics, but we have, and I'm going to play a little short that our founder did a short on how the just the evolution debate. Here we are a young earth creation platform channel, group of guys and girls, and we then look at where the lie, we think it's a lie. We think there's evidence that godless evolution is a lie, and that is being taught to our school children. So that's a number one for me. Where's the light? The light is in only one of the two choices I have on lessening that. Then we have, of course, abortion. Abortion, to everybody I know, is a murder in God's eyes. And even though we had a former president now that said, oh yeah, I'm against abortion, but I can't tell somebody else not to do it. Can you imagine that mindset date where it's going, you know what? I don't think, John, you should kill your neighbor, but he's not my neighbor. So how can I tell you not to kill your neighbor? And, no, it's like,
it's just a basic political game. You're trying to please as many people as possible. And, because either way on that side of the coin, if you agree that killing babies is okay, you're going to tick off some people. If you're going to agree that it's not okay, you're going to tick off other people. So they're just trying to play neutral. But all in all, they're to try to please themselves, not the Almighty, and I think that's what most political parties out there are forgetting. They're in it for themselves. It used to be a position of honor and prestige, but now it's all about self. You can see that through the past several decades. Doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you're on, it comes from both sides of the world.
And then we'd have to agree that, any of that honor, if it's not honor with Christ Jesus as your head, that's just maggot pride, and so no matter what position you're holding, if it's not Jesus Christ as the head, like so many of our forefathers, the founding fathers, confessed, it's no different. So that's where I was right now. Richard was on the thing of, I vote. And I love the fact that I've never liked Donald Trump, never watched his shows. It made me gag. I don't like that New York bully thing. That's just because I'm in Northern California, wine totaler, even though I never liked wine. But West Coast is laid back. We don't like the bully Chicago, New York, most of us anyway, I think. And so it is great though when people are like, oh, you're just a Trumpite. No, Trump makes me sick. But like John is saying, and I like the way you said that, is what's more light, for abortion or for the saving of innocent human beings? For the whole thing of, the genders, God-given genders, male and female, or do we give it to a choice that, in the own person's mind? And then though they're saying, oh, we need the rights of these people, but then you're opening up the children of our society, surprise, surprise, that have jumped in the amount of kids who are uncomfortable with their gender. I don't know about, I didn't really care one way. I was not smart enough, but a lot of teenage kids go through gender euphoria, whatever they call that thing, of not being happy.
I mean, they wouldn't be distracted or deceived that way unless somebody was, deceiving them or misrepresenting them into doing such a thing. I mean, one kid isn't going to, maybe on a rare case it might, they're going to decide, oh, I'm not comfortable with my gender, let me go beg and borrow, to switch so I feel better about myself. I mean, that honestly sounds satanic. But I think what's going on is they're getting some sort of political approval by doing it, whether or not it's to raise up the next minority because they're desperate for votes, or they're trying to weaken future generations of American culture so they can easily walk right over them,
And that was actually a good thing, because so many of our Democrat friends were like, there would never be a undermining force trying to do this. And then you had the doctor, and I think she was in Kentucky, and actually made
Joseph Stalin said something similar.
Well, let's go to America. And there was a doctor who said, hey, if every transition will be over $100,000 to the medical community, and we need that. Nothing to do. And that came out, and that's when, none of these universities are promoting that. And then it turned out, yeah, you guys lied. So even some of our atheist friends or Democrat friends are like, whoa, they're all for, somebody 18 doing what they want, but actually targeting underage kids. Yeah, that just, even a line too far for some of them. So then I was just saying just different things, what kind of light things I can vote for. And then, John, what other kind of cons against, Christians being involved with politics? Can you think of any that we thought we talked, that was a pro, but any of the cons of like somebody getting too involved, too much worship, too much focus on government rather than Jesus? Can you think of any other cons against a Christian being focused into politics?
Sure. Well, maybe that's a good entry into maybe me talking about what the word politics means, and then we're going to talk about politics, partisanship, and participation. And so, politics. I'm not a Greek scholar, but I understand that polis is the Greek word for city. So politics is really about the process or practice of making decisions that applies to groups of people. So polis, city. So politics is the affairs of the city. That's what politics is. So that's a pretty neutral idea, just in and of itself. I mean, we have cities, we have people, we have cities. They need to organize themselves. So how do they organize themselves? Well, they're going to somehow. So, there's going to be voices. They're going to be calling for, let's set it up this way, or let's set it up that way, and let's have these programs and these procedures and so forth. And so, as Christians, it just makes sense to that, we've been given the truth, the truth of reality, the truth of creation, the truth of God, the truth of, the nature of man, where we came from, where we are, where we're going. The big questions. The most durable question is, salvation and the gospel. That always has to be first. So, our involvement in the affairs of the city, if you will, our involvement in politics, needs to serve that, right? Needs to serve the Great Commission, needs to serve the propagation of the gospel. So, just keep things in the right order, and prayerfully. I think if we're guided like that, then we can dive into politics, if we have it rightly aligned with God's word and God's principles and God's mind. So, politics is about justice, right? It's about how justice is administered. It's about who's in authority and the role of leadership, right? Those in authority have a duty. They're not granted sovereignty, a complete moral sovereignty, as though they're many gods themselves. Those who are brought up in authority, to be in places of authority, who bear the sword, right? They have duties to use that sword to administer justice, and so we need to, they have a duty to care for society, punish wrongdoers. I think that's Romans 13, right? So I think a lot of Christians understand that. So if these ideas are based in the Bible, then it's biblical, and we're people of the book. So let's engage. But let's not misunderstand first what politics is. Politics as an idea is simply the affairs of the city, and we should be informing the affairs of the city.
Right on. And that's kind of goes into that. And again, how most things in life, I think you'd agree, you can have an idol of everything, anything, sports, food, money, even your church. I mean, I've seen I go to, Crystal Cathedral. Oh, it's no longer here in existence, but I think it was bought by the Catholic Church because they were not focused on Christ and Him crucified. And so that's my argument always with people who and I think it is people trying to get us out of the political sphere because, they do want to be able to sacrifice unborn children. They do want to sacrifice young children into not being comfortable in what God gave them, the body they are in, and on and on. Borders. How about borders? So the whole thing of, but not in politics, but have you studied much on the whole, the biblical, kind of philosophy of borders, or the teaching of borders?
Oh, I would say doctrine of nations, perhaps.
That's why I've got you here. You can actually say it in adult words.
Well, honestly, it's kind of next on the list. I've got off to the side here. I've got Post-it notes everywhere, full of ideas, and so it's not actually there yet. It's still in the back of my mind. It's going to get onto a Post-it note, and eventually it'll get onto maybe something written down for a presentation. But doctrine of nations is that's very close to what we're talking about tonight. I don't have anything really prepared on that, but clearly nations are of God. And God uses them, and so anything that attacks, the enemy loves to attack literally everything. I don't think there's any doctrine, any idea, any value that God sets as valuable that the enemy doesn't want to turn upside down or pervert or attack or twist or something or co-opt or something. And so very clearly we see an nationalist current from the highest orders of world politics and goings on. And so this isn't surprising. It should be, oh yeah, that's expected. And it's almost a reverse validation of nations that we have them. And so that would, and I mean to say you point to the attack against them must mean they're important. So no, I don't have much of much to share, I suppose. I guess I am sharing, but don't mean to. But oh, there I am again. But maybe I can use this to switch over to the next P in my little presentation. So we just talked about politics, and also you were talking a little bit about the abuses. So let's talk about partisanship. And my opinion is that a lot of the, let's just say abuses, or how about offenses? Even if they aren't abusive, they're offensive. The offenses that occur, how about between Christians in church, which is why politics is the the word that shall not be spoken, or and I'm going to say it comes from partisanship. So partisanship, it can be defined as strong support for a particular political party or your cause, your group. And so when you have an issue, you want to promote it, you want to get organized, make a group, make a web page, right? Make a plank, make a platform, and define what your group's about. I think that's pretty natural. It's pretty obvious. You got to do that. So, but of course, what tends to happen now, everyone's got different ideas, so they set up different groups and they set up rivalries, exist between, because there's competition. And sometimes when the stake, you mentioned abortion, that's just like almost like the classic, third rail, or I don't know if it's a third rail or not, but it's certainly a dividing point. I mean, it's either life, are you for life or against life? Baby's good, baby's bad. It's pretty simple, pretty simply defined divide. Yet we divide over that, and of course over just about every topic.
I'm wondering if some of the abortion issues are more or less a case of the heart, where people are using that as an excuse to not deal with the responsibility for sexual immorality. Instead of saying, okay, yeah, I'm gonna mother or father this child, let's just get rid of it and I can continue on with my selfish desires in this world. I wonder if it's just a disguise, or I wonder if there's billions of dollars in stem cell research. I don't know. Where's it coming from? What's the root of the evil? Why is there such a push to stop killing or to keep killing young-born children? I mean, it's a major population control issue also. I mean, I don't know. How many different arguments or directions could we go on that topic?
Oh, tons. And that's where I was saying then you could get, and the reason I backed off of the abortion fight is because if I had a tank, I would have gone in there. But that would have been me. That would have been not God's want to express myself, which could have killed people to protect babies. So the devil can use all sides. And that's where I think, John, that's great. Thank you. I lost my contact here for a second or two. So you did great. Keep it on going. Gemma's watching in the other room, so I could hear it was still going, but I froze out on my computer, but I'm back. So thank you, John, for keeping on going on your talk. And because again, for you and I think me, we've talked enough. It's about walking that straight line, the narrow line, how we can please God and give him what he sets up nations. He said the borders of the nations will and are directed by him. I just told somebody you're on, John, and guess who's here?
Well, I just told Ken from our group, and I just texted it to him. He saw me looking down.
Well, here's Bruce. Hi, Bruce.
Hi.
Hi, Bruce.
Hi, John.
So, just to kind of go back onto the my definition of partisanship, and I kind of want to unpack that a little bit. So, obviously, I was just explaining the obvious necessity of forming a group to advance your position, right, for righteousness. Let's just say whatever it is, and so thinking positively, partisanship improves civic engagement, and that's good. If you got the issues right under God, then you're promoting the gospel, or you have a gospel informed or biblically informed position that you're advocating for. All right, so that's good. That's good partisanship. Of course, naturally, once you have two groups with different ideas, or worse, diametrically opposed ideas, and we just pick the abortion one just because it's just obviously polarizing in our society, and we can talk about why, of course. But it causes polarization, and so polarization is necessarily, that word kind of implies separation and implies conflict. Now, going back to churches, because that's a overarching theme of what I want to talk about, what's going on in churches that I perceive, my opinion. Pastors, I think, don't want to create polarization. I think it doesn't help the main mission, right? The main mission of church on Sunday, in my view, is glorifying God, edifying the body. It's not a time to create fights. It's a time to focus on the Lord, right? And simply put, I don't think that's controversial.
Are you afraid that might give cover to those that would pretend to be sheep as though they were wolves?
Well, hang on a sec. So I'll answer that. I'll reflect on that. But I was just saying that, I'm speaking of just like during the sermon, right? We got a 45-minute sermon. You can, what I'm trying to describe is what I would imagine to be motivations of church leaders or a pastor, right? They're trying to give focus to Christ, and bringing up partisan issues, which already are dividing the congregation. It's kind of the wrong time to bring it up, I think. That's what I'm saying. So then Dustin, a little small there. You asked, I didn't quite get the full thrust of your question. Are you saying?
So, Jesus came to divide, right? He didn't come to unite. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if there's not a hard, firm line in the church of what is right and wrong, then how do we have any claim to explain what is evil and what is good?
Okay, so I'm with you on that, and I have a little opinion on, we should not unite over what must be divided, right? So, uniting over something that's clearly unbiblical, that'd be the wrong thing to do. But at this moment in my speech, though, I'm only really trying to define partisanship in a very high level, and talking about, some of the challenges that we have in the church, where we don't engage in politics. And I don't know if you were here for my first part where I talked about politics, what that word means, and now I'm talking about partisanship, but I'm trying to make a distinction between the ideas of what politics is, very neutral, and partisanship, which is necessarily divisive. So, and I think that's where difficulty can arise when you have two people on different people in two different camps. But and so I just talked about the positive and negative of that. And then James chapter 3, I didn't study it in too much depth in preparation, so it's not freshly downloaded in my brain. But James chapter 3 talks about how we should speak, right? And in some part, and it's of course in context of the gospel, but I think it's good direction for everything that we engage in with our mouths, politics no less. We should be peaceable and open to reason, right? So, and I think.
But wait.
Go ahead.
Peaceable and open to reason is, I mean, yeah, I agree that being peaceable and open to reason, but reason's not a one-way street, right?
Yeah. Oh, hi, Dustin. Welcome. Actually, I think Stephen opened up a little bit too soon. John here is giving kind of an outline of what
I'll
we're
leave.
going to get.
That was my
Oh,
bad.
oh, okay. Oh, because we're going to open up later, or you can stay, Dustin,
Okay, can't.
or go. But yeah, this is just kind of an introductory one. And then we're going to say hi to Eastern Thomas, but tell him that. He left again. Yeah. So John's giving us a presentation. I'm wanting the information. you don't even look like deer in a headlight, because I know it'll just be you and me. John's not used to the Wild West here on YouTube, and so
I'm good with it. No, Dustin. Sorry, didn't. There's Dustin. You're back. No, Dustin, that's cool, man. You just you're coming. You're bringing your ideas, and I'm good with it. I'm ready for the Wild West of the internet. So
okay,
hey,
good. So we got finished then with your presentation.
Yeah, I'm just giving ideas. Is it from my heart? I guess that everything I'm saying is, in context. It just went on for the previous, 51 minutes. But I'm happy to,
wow.
I'm happy to discuss that's the whole point of my being here, is to discuss, what the church can do, what the proper role is, and how we're to engage the culture. Yeah.
Wow, I thought it was just here. So anybody, let's see. Oh, Dustin, you back? There you go. And anybody else?
Yep.
Anybody else that wants to join? Yeah, the link is out there, and come on with your stones. Let's give John his John was anyway. Sorry, John, you're smiling. Bruce, is that our friend Bruce?
I understand the idea of coming, because Jesus tells us that his burden is light, or excuse me, his yoke is light and his burden is easy. Right? I get that. I get the idea of drawing people into the church. I understand. What I don't understand is the perversion of it. Right? And I'm not saying that's necessarily an issue of the pastor, but when you take on new people, if you don't have, say, like a decontamination period, so to speak, right, then you're risking causing damage to the congregation just by principle of inviting an unknown element.
Okay.
And welcome to Bruce. He's another member of our church and Bible study, and he's going to do or Bible studies, and he's going to give us probably next week some stuff on AI. He teaches, and so anyway, that'll be next week. But Bruce, how are you doing?
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. So any questions? Come on, get out some rocks. Let's throw them at John. Let's see.
Hey, man.
Well, I just joined, so I haven't heard any too much up to now. So I'm still kind of warming up here.
All right. Well, that was part of, so Bruce, kind of my outline, I named politics, partisanship, and participation.
Okay.
And I'll just repeat, maybe just as people jump on, I don't want them to misunderstand me. Anything I say is always meant to be under God, under the Bible, under Christ. Okay. So if I say anything really outrageous, please reinterpret it as in I'm trying to promote, the sovereignty of God over our lives and our nation. Right. And
Okay.
I'm really just trying to explore how we can be obedient to the Great Commission in the field, right? The many fields that we can work, but there's a field of the culture, the field of politics, as I just defined it. And what I want to do is sort of unpack some of the errors I think that I've seen in the church, both being excessively partisan in some ways,
Okay.
maybe rotating up patriotism. It's not one of my P's, but rotating patriotism up to inappropriate position within the pulpit or within the church context, the church sphere, if you understand that theory of understanding things. Those are errors. But there's an opposite error, of course. There's always an opposite error. And the opposite error is completely saying, I mean, if I can just bring up things like anything's remotely having to do with the affairs of the city, I've had Christians, well-meaning, whom I love, and awesome saints and all that, to say, oh, that's just politics. And they use that to shut their mind off, and they won't even engage the issue. So, and that's, to me, is a missed opportunity. And that's kind of what's on my heart, and kind of what's in part some of my motivation for discussing how can the church be effective in this area. Yeah.
Well, the premise makes really good sense to me in terms of, I enjoy being able to go to church on Sundays and being able to get away from the noise of what I hear on TV. I admit I tend to probably engage a little too frequently in listening to news shows from different sides, just because I've just kind of historically been interested in listening to that stuff. But I do enjoy getting away to church to kind of get grounded again and sort of the core things that, to me, make me draw closer to Jesus, and not worry too much, not over worry about the things that are more questionable, as things that aren't easily resolved. So I appreciate that aspect of what you're saying. I think that's what you're getting at to some extent.
Well, before you jumped on, I was given, I forget if you were on there or not, but were you hearing me when I was talking about the draping of the flag on the cross that I saw once and those kind of things?
No, I came in later, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, let me just reiterate,
Okay.
and this was in preface. I told you I related these stories because they made impressions on me as to, sort of shape my thinking about. Of course, I'm a Christian. I'm a citizen of heaven, right? I was born a citizen of the United States, but I'm by faith, I'm a citizen of heaven.
Right.
And here's several things. So I'll go a little more quicker this time for the sake of the other guys. As a very young Christian, attending some smaller churches, and they would have both an American flag on one side of the pulpit and the Christian flag, that Christian flag that somehow somebody designed. Okay, great. Right. And I didn't hold that against the church. I thought that's fine. It's one nation under God. The church is under God. Our nation is under God. We want to help the nation. We love our nation. God gave us our nation. I think those are the ideas that church held, and that's why they had the American flag on their pulpit. But I always thought it was kind of weird. Why are we mixing up the American flag and Christianity? And being a very young Christian, I had other problems to solve. I just sort of, put that one away. And then and then a bunch of time passed, and I was in another church, and the church would decorate for holidays. Not too well, whatever. They would just, they meant it for well. They meant it for good. And they took a flag, and you can see this on meme art, on the internet and so forth. And they took an actual American flag, and they had a big giant cross on the wall, and they just draped this thing all over the, kind of wove it through, as they would. And it's like, oh man,
Yeah.
that mix symbols are important, right? The cross, great symbol, very important, full of meaning. The flag, great symbol, very important, full of meaning. But you got to be careful mixing your symbols, right? You communicate new ideas by taking two things and you put them together, and now it means something different.
Mhm.
And again, I'm not judging that church's motivation. There was a lady who was responsible, and she was just trying to be patriotic. The cross, we love our nation. Again, the same thing. But it's just like, oh man, that was the wrong juxtaposition of symbols in my view, and not
Right.
okay. And then this was and one thing I didn't say, guys, you're hearing me tell the story again. So I'm going to add another detail. So the church projected the words onto the projector, right? So we could all sing on the same words. And then I'm sure you understand that churches can also have backgrounds like nature scenes or whatever, right? Giving glory to God, and right as you're singing the hymn. That's perfectly fine. But for this one hymn, I don't even remember what the hymn was anymore. And it was a big church with a big screen, and they had this close-up, slow-mo, billowing American flag while I'm trying to sing this beautiful hymn, and I'm just like, my mind's exploding. And I knew also that the church had a lot of Canadians in it. It's like, how would that juxtaposition of symbols affect the guests? You don't know. Like, what are you doing? You're just like throwing bombs, just like taking paint and throwing it on a wall and calling it art. Anyway, no, it's actually worse than that. But anyway, so those things kind of stuck with me and really got me thinking about, what does it mean to be a biblical citizen? Because like I said, where I'm a citizen of heaven first. Actually, I was born a citizen of the United States first, but then became a citizen of heaven. Well, we can talk about, was that not ordained? But anyway, the point is that I'm a citizen of heaven first now, but I don't fully. But I'm still placed here. I feel I have in the United States. I have a mission here. So I want to understand what my duties are. I want to understand what my duties are. And I understand you can go too far, but it also means you can go too little. You become, anyway. And so that's what I'm trying to do. That's what discussion is. It's just to look at those, examine those issues. And
patriotism at the very core of it has pride, and pride is a sin. I understand the juxtaposition.
What'd you say? Wait. Sorry, I was distracted by something in the background. You said patriotism at its core is pride?
At the core of patriotism is pride in your country. If pride is a sin, I mean, I understand your juxtaposition.
Well, I didn't include patriotism yet. Maybe I'm still fleshing out my ideas, I suppose. I guess there's actually pride, another P word. Interesting. What is pride? And I don't think the way that we use the word pride in English is too use it in too many ways. It's too simple of a word and used in too many ways. I think there's obviously sinful pride. I think that's what you're getting at. Rotating up, the nation over our Christian duty. That's obviously wrong. Excessive expenditure of energy. Being making the flag, or making even the Constitution of the United States, or whatever component, or all of it together, making that an idol. That's. I think that's obviously wrong, right? So we're supposed to make anything an idol, have idols of nothing. And we can make idols of anything. We're very good at making idols. So I'm with you on that, Dustin. But just to back off a little bit, I think I would offer this. In our everyday language, if I have pride of ownership in my home and I mow my front lawn, or hire Dan to make it nice, we would say casually, I have pride in my home or pride in my yard, and that just means taking care of it. So I'm with you on the abuse, the abusive manifestation of pride in our lives, but also I'd say, I think you can have pride in your nation. You can be proud of the good things of it, and work for its good. Right, that's clear in Scripture. We're to work for the good of the city, right? We know that. So So patriotism, yeah, for sure. It's something that can become an idol readily. And that's, again, what I'm trying to figure out, even for myself, and glad I've got some other guys interested in the topic. So what is biblical citizenship, right? It's not just citizenship, it's biblical citizenship. What is that? Maybe even biblical patriotism. What is that? That'd be an interesting thing to discuss. Go ahead.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good premise there to me, John. I guess have you come up with what you are comfortable with by way of, I don't know, certain guidelines or principles along these lines for biblical citizenship, or is there, kind of a, anything out there that you're sort of looking to or are you kind of just more at the stage of just trying to flesh these things out through discussion at this point?
Sure. Well, let me get to my third P. That's a good, thanks, Bruce. I think that I'll use that to segue to my third P, and that's participation, right? Politics, partisanship, and participation.
Okay.
So what can Christians do? What is given to us to do in America that's easy? So I just did some study. What is a participatory? It's a, man, this presentation has a lot of P words. I'm telling you. What is a participatory democracy? Okay, so first of all, we live in a constitutional republic. So it drives me nuts when people refer to our democracy, if you've heard that phrase enough times. Well, it's really our constitutional republic. And naturally, our constitutional republic, it has democratic principles in it. And democracy is about participation, right? So, I was talking about politics. What is politics? It's being engaged in the public square and being engaged in the debate about how things ought to be, and bringing our biblical witness to those conversations and debates. So we need to participate. And so I did do a little brainstorm here. Give me a second. What do I do with it? You call it up and it gets lost. I got 3 screens. It's a good thing I don't have 4 because I just lose more stuff. Here we go. Here's some ideas for low energy, low profile Christian civic engagement. Here we go. First, of course, we can pray regularly. And one of the things that we did in my class, which I haven't talked much about yet, but I intend to, my biblical citizenship in modern America class, is we prayed for our leaders, and not just the obvious ones, the president, the Congress, and all that. It seems like we're always fixated on those, but there are many layers of local government. So state, federal officials, judges, pray for the judges, for God to intervene in their mind and their perceptions. There's elected officials, of course. There's a lot of appointed officials. There are city officials, county officials. Do we know I don't even know. Who's our board of supervisors in Sonoma County? I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
It's kind of silly, right? I'm confessing that. Anyway, the county, schools, there are school boards, there are school superintendents, right? We prayed for those some of those people. Our sheriffs, right? Our sheriffs are like a almost last line in the sand to defend our constitutional rights. And if you got a bad sheriff in your county, it's not great. In Sonoma County, we actually have a pretty good sheriff, surprisingly, for constitutional rights and Second Amendment rights and so forth. Go ahead.
Sorry, we have another host who needs restream in about 20 minutes. Do you think you can maybe wrap it up?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Come on, Rich, I'm president. He can wait.
Okay. Betty.
All right. Thanks for giving me a time frame. I crave that. So pray regularly, right? You don't get any money, that's fine. Can you pray? Okay, just Google it. Who are my county supervisors? Who are my city council members? Google it. Pray for them. Pray for their judges. Okay. Number one. So that's number one. Number two, vote. Voting is free. And I was distracted by that. It'd be interesting. I'll read that later. Voting is free. And I don't know what happens in all the rest of the country, but in my part, they mail you the ballot. There's a lot of abuse with that. But anyway, hey, I'm not talking about the abuse of that. I'm just talking about, dude, they mailed me my ballot. There's literally no excuse for me not to at least make a few check marks on it, hopefully prayerfully considered, and send it back. So I'm going to say something that actually pierced me a little bit. So we talked about earlier about Donald Trump, and I'm not here to promote him at all, but let me tell you something that he said. This was more when he was on the campaign trail. And, and he said, this is when he was more trying to court the Christian vote, more trying to court, those biblically minded people. And at some point, and he got really frustrated, and he said, with trying to pursue our vote, he said, just plainly, he said, Christians don't vote. Christians don't vote. So think about it. He was actually courting, I'll say our vote, Christians' votes, but we didn't respond. We're like, oh no, politics. And I'm like, wow. So he was, that's an example of a politician that, I don't know, he seems to have a pro-life bone somewhere. Okay, that's pretty good. Other things, generally conservative, other problems, whatever. But I'm just talking about, not choosing the lesser of two evils, but to the people came on later here, choosing to lessen evil. So, all right, if you want to lessen evil, well, okay, there's something. But he said Christians don't vote, and I'm like, oh, that's embarrassing, to be honest. But it's true. So let's repent of that. Let's vote. It doesn't cost anything. Is that political? It's absolutely political. Are you marching the street? No. Are you doing anything else? No. I'm not asking you to do that. I don't like to do that personally. It's not I don't feel like that's my calling. But I can vote. So number two, vote. Number three, it's also free. Sign petitions. There are good petitions that are advanced once in a while. They're free. Well, you might have to pay to mail it back or whatever. So go find those petitions and sign them if it's something good. So sign petitions. If you feel like it, a little more action, a little more energy, it's still free. You can contact your representatives. I was shocked. I called my local representative once on some issue. I forgot what it was. And the representative didn't answer the phone, but his office did. And it's a liberal guy, and I'm not liberal. And I was thinking, oh, this is not going to go anywhere. The guy was patient. He was welcoming. He like, oh yeah, tell me more. And it's like, okay. And I didn't feel like he was being disingenuous. It's like he really wanted to hear what I had to say. And I thought, wow, that was all right. So you can contact your representatives because I think they want to know. Even if in my county, where I'm like a 1 in 5 literal minority, or 1 in 10 maybe minority in my positions and views, they still want to hear from us. Now the fifth one is actually will cost you something. It's give money. Now in I guess we got people from all around the country. I think it is. And on this podcast, but in California, we're 40% conservative, at least 40% conservative. Yet we're shut out from a lot of the political debate, political results. Let's just say. So, all right, let's do some quick math. So 30 million people, 34 is 12 million. Let's say 1 million are convinced, dedicated biblical Christians that want to, make a difference. 1 million Christians. If 1 million Christians each gave $5 to a campaign of a candidate who will lessen evil, or $5 million to, we had a what was a referendum or so, a ballot, a proposition. It was marriage would be restricted to, just a man and a woman. That was something we had a few years back. before a judge like suspended it or something. But give $5 million. Well, that can push something over the edge. So that's something you can do. I'm going to say we can all afford $5. The least of us can afford $5, I'm sure. So, and then the sixth thing we can do to wrap this up is, we can encourage like-minded friends. Encourage like-minded friends, and we don't have to come in with partisan flags. I think I made that point clear about the difficulty of partisanship. It's okay to be partisan with your fellow-minded partisan friends, but I think we should bring my opinion. We should really keep partisanship out of the church. I think just like putting an American flag on a Christian cross, it's like, I don't know if that's the right, but we can talk about issues in church, and we should, and that'll be, I'll elaborate later. That's we should definitely talk about issues, and encourage like-minded friends to be encouraged to vote to lessen evil. Not the lesser of two evils, but to vote to lessen evil.
To lessen evil. Yeah.
Totally. That's my new phrase of the day. Just having John on that, because again, I always tell people, it's like, I don't even like the guy in office now, but I like the fact that abortion is being attacked. God established borders. He established laws. There's people that want to break down our God-given border, and which we know is just a traffic way for drugs, human slavery, and the such. I don't know why anybody would be for an open border, but just things like that. And we go into the whole gender reassignment thing, which to me really hurts, because I don't know, I've been youth leader for 20 years, whatever it is, and just being a youth 50 years ago, we're not comfortable in our skins, and the devil would love us to get our eyes off of that. Yeah, you really don't matter. In that, you matter because God loves you. Don't look in the mirror, look up. When Peter looked at Jesus, he walked on water. When he looked down, he started to sink. So many of our youth, so many of our children are sinking because they just societal, this internet, all that kind of stuff. They get to look at themselves, and of course then they're going to start to drown, and then they're easy targets. Oh, well, if you just change your gender, if you just did this, that, the other thing, you'll be happy with yourself. And we know that's not true.
Hey, Dan, Richard, I know we're kind of on a time crunch. I did want to give a little plug for my my biblical citizenship class. May I do that?
Yeah, that's what it's here for.
And there was an intro I thought might have been good to play. It's 1 minute 26 seconds long. Is there time to play that?
Yes.
Yeah, more than enough.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen.
A good 10 minutes at least if you need it.
Okay.
Okay, great. So I'm sharing my screen. We did test this, Dan, last Thursday, so hopefully it'll work. I think you have to approve that. It looks like there it is. So I'm going to embiggen that, and I'm going to press play. So let me tell you what this is. So the name of this organization is Patriot Academy. They're the ones that have this biblically based constitutional literacy material. They have a bunch of programs. This is one of their programs. They call it the lunch break version because it's designed to be very short and, in theory, done on a lunch break. And there's 6 total of them. And then I've done this twice, and I'd like to do it a third time. And I break it up. We get conversation about it and questions and so forth. And it will really improve one's understanding of the Christian basis for our nation, what the original model was. And by reviewing it, I believe can help strengthen our biblical, I'm going to say patriotism, or biblical understanding of our nation, why it's a gift from God, how we can preserve the good, and have it be one field of missionary activity for us. Okay.
Let's do this. Uh-oh. Pause it.
Yeah,
No sound.
no volume. Can you turn it up?
No volume?
No volume.
Okay. I'm not sure. Well, this volume was blasted, and let's see. Let's go to see if I can move that. That can move, and I'm on sharing mode. Now, Dan, we tested this last time, and it
We did.
so we wouldn't have a glitch like that.
Correct.
Well, let me see if it's on our end here. I don't know if microphone. Yeah, I'm not seeing.
Actually, let me try something else. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to stop sharing. I have an idea, so I'm stopping, and then I'm going to restart sharing. And maybe if I do the window, I think that was my challenge.
I think it was
or
something like
it was either the window or the Chrome tab.
Yeah, Evie Mux acts up from time to time. It's really good on what is it? Shoot, if Steven was here, he'd know exactly what it is. But
yeah, so try that one, John.
Let's try this one. Can you hear it?
In 1 week, you're going to enjoy it. Now the bad news.
Yep.
That was good.
Yep.
Yes. Put it back to the beginning. There you go.
Welcome to Biblical Citizenship in Modern America, the lunch break version, which means we're slicing and dicing this full 8-week biblical citizenship course down to 5 days that you can do during your lunch break, all in 1 week. You're going to enjoy it. Now, the bad news is you're going to miss out on a lot of the great teaching that's in the full 8-week version. So every day as you're going through the course, I know you're going to be thinking about people that you know need to hear and see these things as well. So I'm going to encourage you to host the full 8-week course right there in your home, in your living room, or maybe at your church or somewhere else in the community. But for now, let's get to lunch and let's get to the first day of biblical citizenship. Now, I know you see a particular meal sitting here. We're not sponsored by anybody. If you happen to know a chicken business that might want to sponsor, if you're having your biblical citizenship lunch break version at a particular chicken business, encourage them to send the donations to patriotacademy.com. And by the way, I have never had a bad waffle fry in my entire life. Okay. There's a reason for that. There's a formula that produces through a franchise the same waffle fries every time. That's why they always taste good. So if you know the formula, you can get a good result. We're about to find the formula for how you get a good society, a good neighborhood, a good state, a good nation where you want to raise your family. Let's go study that formula and let's become good biblical citizens.
All right. Well, that's pretty brief. Let me stop sharing here. So, so anyway, that's a brief introduction to kind of give you a flavor. That's a founder of that organization, and he does a lot of the presentation. But they bring in other guests as well that bring in really amazing stuff. They address the concern that have been brought, the charge that America is a racist nation, and actually makes a great presentation about that issue can be traced to 2 different cities and 2 different results. And how that sin of slavery was dealt with in our country, how it grew in a part and then was finally dealt with. So it brings a lot of balance to a lot of the, I'll say, propaganda against our country, and which has really harmed the mission for good, harmed the mission for good.
Very good. And I love that. Where he said in French fries designed. And of course, you're here at the designer talk by President of ProverbsGuys on design and the intelligent designer. And today kind of going off of that with the design of how God has created nations, borders, states, and what as Christian citizens of this country should do. If you're in another country, what your obligations are for your nation. And we're just excited to have you here, John. This was great after a month or so trying to get you on here.
It's in the right time. It's in the right time.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, well, Thank you too, and I'm grateful for the time to talk. And so, Dan, I guess we'll talk offline about next steps. But it's been great for me to be here and just share some of my ideas.
I don't know about anybody else, but I'm excited. And then another promo, we'll see Bruce next week because he's going to do a teaching on AI, biblical and potential pros and cons.
I'd love to jump in on that one, Bruce. I've
Oh.
got theories about AI.
Yeah, I may need another week beyond that to prepare for this.
Revelation.
I'll talk with you about it, but we'll talk about it.
Well, yes, and so that's why Stephen, the creator of the channel and the tech guy, is so happy I got you guys, because you probably know I figure out my show about 5 minutes before I start. And so he did, and I've been praying to get some smarter people in here, more organized. And I have two of my great friends who came on the same day to say hi. So that is totally awesome, even if it's just a few shows. But as you can tell, they're well thought. Well, can't tell with Bruce, but he's same quality, and we will have fun in the future. So anyhow, any last questions, Richard, or any last statements, Bruce or John?
No, I really appreciate your thinking about this subject, John. I think it's really important, and I was just thinking of my own last experience filling out the ballot for Sonoma County, county supervisors or whatever it was, and how demotivated I was because, number one, I couldn't quite figure out what their function was, and number two, I couldn't quite figure out who the heck they were, and number three, I wasn't even sure I cared. And so this is kind of bringing it back to sort of alerting me, I guess, to thinking about, what am I doing here? So thank you for alerting.
Yeah, you're welcome to come back anytime you'd like, brother. I mean, thanks for educating us. I've definitely appreciated it, and looking forward to hearing more.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I've been blessed because John has taken over, and Bruce, some of the Bible studies, and so I just wanted to share them with everybody else. Because that has been really cool. And then one of our atheist friends, faithful to our show, we'll end with this because he's putting up that this organization you're talking about, alarmed that he's alarmed, or somebody's alarmed that they're provided firearm training to children as young as 11, teaching them. I would say, man, too bad it wasn't younger. I know. So again, just a general criticism attacking, say, an organization. But again, that is a big bad mama, as you know, a fallacious argument, which means it really doesn't have anything to do. They could be 90% wrong with other things. But when you hear John, when you hear John talking this, if there is actually things bad about what he tells you, then you'll be welcome to ask. But to me, this is a God thing, and school shootings pretty well have nothing to do with God. And training children, like I said, I was around loaded guns since I was a baby. None of those ever shot off, except for the couple times. One time I shot at a gopher with my dad's .38, and then another time shot at a skunk with a 30-30 close range. Probably not the maybe it was a 270. I think it was a 30-30. But yeah, so and none of those times, even if I was being stupid there, would I have gone to some place to hurt other human beings, because we were taught, even though it was a non-Christian household, we were taught the value of human life. This study will hope is that's what Christian citizenship is about, is valuing human life. And I know you're smart enough, BM, that you know that the human starts at conception with its own separate DNA. And so there's a lot of different issues. So, but we won't get into that. That's not what we're here for. This is about what people and you can learn, and you're already good at that, BBM, of voting after your worldview, voting after your beliefs. But I think you would probably want Christians who believe that God is the creator to keep the state's dirty little fingers out of the genetics of our children. But anyway, debates for another time. I will be coming back on with my show, probably 8 or so tonight, Pacific Standard Time. This was just a promo for John. I'll have some cool little creation things, I think. And I did want, and this was one that I wanted to share, and I'll share this before we end. And I just want to thank God for everybody that was around. But this was actually good because it came, I will probably do that next time then. Oh, here we go.
Can I touch on this real quick, Dan?
Right after this, because I'm going to start this. This was a Stevens.
That they weren't created in God's image. Do you want your children to stop acting like animals? Stop teaching them that they're related to animals. Do you want your precious young child to lose their depression? Stop teaching them that they have no value and that they have no purpose and that they weren't created in God's image. Do you want your children to stop acting like animals? Stop teaching them that they're related to animals. Do you want your precious young child to lose their depression? Stop teaching them that they have no value and that they have no purpose and that they weren't created in God's image. Do you want your children to stop acting like animals?
I'm trying.
Stop teaching.
I thought this was.
Can I touch on that gun thing real quick? Like a couple minutes?
Okay, wait a minute. Let me. Did that go good? Wait a minute. I'm trying to get rid of this first. Sorry. All right. I just wanted to play that because that was pertinent because, our founder and one of our good friends, Achilles from Greece, are both, really worried about people idolizing any government, especially the most powerful government in the whole world. So I'm sorry, Claude. Richard, how much time we got?
We should have been done about 2 minutes ago.
Okay, sorry, Claude. I'm coming back on later. You can come on then, and Richard, you want to say something, and then?
Yeah, I'll just make it quick. I mean, if this is the right direction, I think if they're talking about teaching young children, like as a citizen of Tennessee is the first one in the union to do this. They're actually putting gun safety classes in the public school system. And in theory, by doing so and bringing children up with the responsibility of firearms, you will bring school shootings down, and you'll bring gun safety down completely. And I think it will benefit the schools in that form, and it will also benefit our Second Amendment, because we have a problem with a lot of politicians trying to pass gun laws to remove guns from the citizens. And mark my words, if anybody wants to take your guns away, shortly after they want to take your rights away. So let's.
And I think we agree here. Thank you, Richard. We agree that here. This tonight was more on the citizenship and what that means, because somebody could be for guns, could be against guns. This is about a Christian getting engaged, though, right, John? And you can give I'll give you the last word, John, and then we're out of here.
Well, let's keep it biblical. Always think, if I'm going to do this or do that in a political sphere, I guess for myself, I would ask, is this biblical? Am I called to do this? Does the scripture already call me to do this in my own way? Whatever my skill level is, or so. That's why I went through those low energy, low cost ways to engage the culture politically through essential civic duties, which is the voting, petitions, donate $5. And if the Christian church did this, got an alignment on biblical values like life or any other value, then I think righteousness would be promoted. You know, it's not over God or His sovereignty. It's just let us respond and be salt and light in in our culture around us.
Awesome. Hey, Bruce, can you pray us out?
Yeah.
And hopefully I'll have a cool theme thing to get us out of here.
Sure. Lord God, thank you for this time together. Thank you for John's message, God, about depending on you first before we delve into our political mode of being partisan or things like that. Help us to know what you have commanded us in your word as far as being good citizens. And thank you for John and the work he's doing with this class that he's trying to put on. And I pray for success with that and that people would be interested and as you draw them to that. So thank you, God, for this session tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Maybe. John, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
All right. Hopefully this is it, and we'll get out of here. Uh-oh, I keep hitting the wrong button. Thank you, everybody. God bless. I'll be on with the creation. Design show in a couple hours.
If you stop the live stream, I got some questions for you, Dan.